earthquakes are already critical. Soon, the air will be lethal for everyone.
The U.S. government advises that up to 25 million people in parts of the Southwest should evacuate.
The slowing rotation of Earth unleashes deadly friction between the Earth's outer layers and the inner molten core. Volcanoes and earthquakes have destroyed routes by road and rail.
Major highways across the country are closed, and those traveling by car are warned that there are no safe routes. Earthquakes, volcanoes, and violence are reported across the states, and those who must travel are advised that the government can offer little by way of help.
Those making the treacherous journey into the livable middle of the United States witness the geological upheaval caused by the slowing Earth. While earthquakes devastate the Midwest, retreating oceans leave major coastal cities high and dry. New York, Boston, Halifax are far inland. Australia has formed a new continent with Indonesia, and Asia's shallow coast is no longer a coast at all. In just 4 months, Hong Kong and other major ports are dry. Shipping has come to a standstill all around the world. Others are discovering the slowing Earth has a new danger: death by solar radiation. An invisible electric field called the magnetosphere normally protects the Earth. The field is maintained by our planet's spin. The rapid rotation of the Earth's iron core generates it. The magnetosphere deflects blasts of solar radiation. But as our spin slows, the magnetic field is weakening, and our protective shield is breaking down. Tropical places like Miami are in no danger of flooding. The city sits on the Atlantic's continental shelf. Now, dozens of kilometers of that shelf are exposed, and Miami is landlocked. And here, the air is still breathable, but the sun is deadly.
Today's solar radiation index is 8, or extremely high. People outside are reminded to completely cover up and limit exposure to 15 minutes. And remember, sunscreen does not protect against the risk.
It's been just over a year since our rotation began to slow. We're now spinning over 340 kilometers an hour less than we used to. The face of the planet continues to change. The waters of the Earth are still moving. And a year since it became possible to walk from England to France, it will never be possible again. At first, the shallow areas around mainland Europe drained as the North Atlantic Ocean converged on the pole. But now, as the polar sea swells, the United Kingdom and much of Europe are swallowed by a new ocean. London is gone. Berlin, gone. Moscow, gone. Historical cities of Northern Europe, all at the bottom of a new sea. In North America, survivors who have been able to make the trip begin to arrive in Kansas. A college campus has been commandeered. Scientists are working to create a refuge in what they think is the safest place in the United States. No flooding, lots of air, minimal earthquakes. But they face an enormous struggle. There's no food being delivered in this shattered world. Roads are all but impassable. What food they eat, they'll have to grow here. It's a disaster on a scale we've never had to deal with. The survivors who have made it here are on their own. It will be a struggle, and they are the lucky ones. It's taken just 2.5 years, but now the spin of the Earth is just 320 kilometers an hour, more than 1,200 kilometers an hour slower than it once was. Entire countries are underwater. In others, the air is too thin to breathe. Survivors face another devastating consequence of the slowdown. All over the world, people struggle to get enough sleep. Each day is now more than 2.5 days long. Each night is too. Humans are not programmed to sleep in a world that's light for more than 60 hours straight. People who live in cities that aren't flooded, where the air is still breathable, struggle with this lack of sleep. People suffer from blurred vision and lack of muscle control.
Hey, you okay?
It's a breakdown commonly faced by astronauts, submariners, and Arctic explorers. Their brains are numb with fatigue, and our world is almost too strange to comprehend. The slowing Earth has a devastating effect on animals too. The migration of most mammals is triggered by the changing length of day. Now the day is getting longer, not shorter. Some migratory birds die as they fail to fly south, and then are frozen as long periods of cold night close in. Other species face the same fate. Caribou. Monarch butterflies, zebras, all doomed to extinction on a slowing Earth. As the oceans move to the poles, a new megacontinent is forming at the Earth's middle latitudes. A group of oceanographers in San Francisco is determined to make their way there. These survivors want to start afresh on what used to be the seafloor. It holds more hope for life than staying in a big city. It's a desperate decision. But on this radically altered planet, there are few good choices. In 2.5 years, a gradually slowing world has been completely transformed. And the worst is yet to come. Four years have passed since the Earth's rotation started to slow. We're spinning at just over 60 kilometers an hour. The sun now stays in the sky for 13 days, followed by 13 days of night. The old concept of 4 seasons is gone. The climate is now defined by a cycle of bright and hot, or dark and cold. In the long nights, the temperatures can plummet to minus 55 degrees Celsius. Humans struggle to adapt. Most species of animals cannot. Even if they survived the floods and found air to breathe, they are now destroyed by the bitter cold. Animals that hibernate stand a better chance of survival. They're used to going without food for long periods. But their future remains uncertain, as their habitats are either flooded or airless. Plants are another casualty. Vital food crops like corn and wheat need lots of sunlight to grow. Temperate rainforests freeze and never recover. Only the boreal forests of Canada and the northern United States are hardy enough to survive the cold and darkness. Except they are now underwater. North American cities are now swallowed as the Atlantic and Pacific converge. Toronto, Halifax, Boston. Millions more people in the US and Canada are dead. New York, too, is being engulfed by the new ocean. But the water here is just 100 meters deep. Its skyscrapers only semi-submerged. Chicago, one of the southernmost cities on the Great Lakes, is finally swallowed by the sea. Those who have stayed now leave in panic as seawater begins flooding subways and courses through city sewers. Soon, the entire city will be completely submerged. In a world where the massive oceans continue to move, there aren't many safe places left. Lethally thin air has made nearly all of Africa, Australia, and South America almost uninhabitable. Near the equator, the air is like being at 10,000 meters, higher than being at the summit of Mount Everest. Enormous cities lie devastated and empty. But an equatorial continent is rising from where the ocean once was. And there are a few places in this new megacontinent where the air is dense enough to breathe. A ship carrying a group of young explorers is making its way west to start a new human colony on what was once the ocean floor. Their journey is treacherous. GPS doesn't work on a slowing Earth.